This Good Friday, the focus is on soul savers. For the second hour, I have a young lady in the studio who is a team member with Time to Revive. How are you, sweetie?
I'm great. I'm excited for today.
I am also. And she didn't identify herself by this title, but I did after I heard her journey, Born to Serve and Born to Service.
Thank you.
Thank you, Melinda. So let's start off with just talk a little bit about what is Time to Revive.
Revive is all about equipping the saints for sharing the gospel, and our desire is to prepare people to be able to share what we truly believe and empowering them to walk it out in a daily, in their daily life.
And so her journey to Time to Revive is pretty interesting and so touching and hilarious at times. But let's just start off with your family. You want to talk about your family?
Yeah. I have a younger sister. Her name's Melissa, and she's given me 3 awesome nieces and nephews. I have an older nephew. He's 7. His name's Cam. And we love to wrestle for fun. And then I have a younger nephew. His name's Liam. He's 1, and he's just always smiley and bubbly. And my niece is 2 months old. Oh, and the rules are, anytime Aunt Melinda's around, she has to have a bow in her hair.
That's pretty cute. Mm-hmm. And are you from Fort Wayne?
Yes, I grew up in Fort Wayne, and I live in New Haven now.
Okay. And are your parents still Hoosiers?
Yes. Okay. Still living in the same house. They're together, and without them, I wouldn't be where I'm at.
Isn't that amazing? So are they ministers, or did you grow up in the ministry?
Nope. We're just regular people. My parents were always around and supportive. My mom, I wouldn't have gone as far in academics if it wasn't for her, and my dad pushed me in softball and encouraged me to do great things, and I owe them so much.
I like that. Revive Ohio. Is that where it all started?
It started in Indiana, and then I fell in love with Revive when it was in Ohio.
Okay. Well, I'm just jumping all around. What about husband and kids?
No husband, but I joke around and say I have kids all over because I adopt them, and they're always around.
Okay, cool. And you're going to talk about one of your experiences with a youth that you guided to Christ. Let's talk about high school and college.
That's where I kind of owe a lot to my mom. When I was in 2nd grade, I was diagnosed with a learning disability, and my parents were told I would never actually graduate high school. So, literally, my mom would sit beside me every day at school, after school, and we would do our homework together. And she would encourage me to do my best. I graduated despite what teachers told me, and went on to college and did awesome there. I played high school softball, which helped me focus on my academics to make sure that I kept them up. And then I went on to college.
Where'd you start off in college?
I started off at Insula College, and I learned what I was actually made of. In college there's a lot of temptations, and I didn't necessarily surround myself with the best people, and I knew that was a toxic environment. So I soon decided that I needed to transfer, and then I transferred to Grace College.
But that was pretty quick, though, wasn't it?
Yeah, I was only there a semester.
Why Grace? Why did you choose Grace?
It was not on my plans to go to Grace, but God obviously had a different plan. The first time I visited, I think I was 14, and didn't really like the whole Christian campus.
Yeah, I remember you telling me. What did you tell me during our pre-interview? I am not coming here.
No, there was no way I was coming there. That was the last choice. But God knew exactly what I needed, and I transferred there, and that was the God of miracles. There were so many things that he had to do in order for me to get accepted. I was actually leaving a full ride scholarship to go to not a full ride. And as you know, Christian colleges cost a lot. Jesus cost a lot. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So there were a lot of hurdles. And
you even had one of your professors who said, that's not going to happen in a semester. Is that correct?
Yeah, they said a transfer mid-school year isn't possible. So I started praying hard, the hardest I've ever prayed, that I would be able to go. And they said it would take like 7 weeks to get that transfer in. And I was like, God, I don't even have 7 days. So you're going to have to like do something.
Work a miracle, huh?
Yes. And he did, because I did end up at Grace, and it was a very growing experience.
How quick was that?
I think I applied in that Thanksgiving, and early December I got accepted.
That's pretty cool. Mm-hmm. That's amazing. Tell me about your experiences at Grace.
Well, I did play softball, which definitely made me focus on my academics. There was school and there was softball, and that was about it, because I needed to focus so much on school. Even in college, people were like, you don't have to graduate. You don't have to have a degree. And that wasn't in my heart to do. And I actually was able to graduate, but with my reading disability, I actually graduated college with a 4th grade reading level, which was amazing, because that's not what happens. That's
Wow.
not the standard that college they expect in college. But
not only did you graduate there, you went to grad school.
I did go to grad school.
Amazing. You're an amazing young lady.
Yes.
Okay. Tell me about the softball team and the and your experiences that you shared about the people that you met there.
I loved it, but a lot of times in Christian schools, just because it's Christian doesn't mean people are Christians in the athletic world. And I actually truly got saved my sophomore year, and started just desiring to know more about God. And I made a friend that actually met me every morning at 7 a.m. And in college terms, 7 a.m. is really early. And she met me every day for breakfast, and the Bible actually became real to me. It wasn't just a coloring book. It was real and personal. So when I desired to know God more, I desired for other people to know God more. And one of my catchphrases during my college year was, I wanted to be a lover, a professional lover. So I just wanted to love people well. And I wanted our campus to just desire to love people well. Anybody can say, oh, I love something. Oh, I love pizza. But to love well is a true mindset. Even when it's difficult, you have to intentionally love.
Even the unlovable that we look at is unlovable.
Yes.
Yes.
But you asked about softball. My junior year, one of my catchers, we decided we were going to pray every single night for this thing called Revive. Now, do you remember the name of my ministry?
Yes.
So we wanted revival, and I didn't completely understand what it was, but I knew that it was a good thing, and I was in a prayer class that they were emphasizing praying big. So let's pray big and see what God does. And we just prayed every night specifically for each member of our team to be radically changed, for our coaches to be on fire for God, for us to actually make an impact on the field, and not just in the athletic realm, but in the spiritual realm, that people would desire to know why there's something different. So we prayed the whole year, my junior year. My senior year, we got a new coach who did desire to do it, and we did team Bible studies, we did team devotions. We always prayed, but after games. But that year, we had conversations after our prayers with our teammate, or with our opponents, and just sharing deeper things. So I did see that change, and it was amazing, just because there is power in prayer.
That's cool. That's cool. You said your degree. What degree did you have?
I have a counseling degree and a sociology degree.
And so at Grace, that wasn't the degree you identified as, though. What I remember you saying, you wanted to be a lover of people. And what did the chaplain say?
He actually made that his theme for the year, that we would desire to go love everyone, and not just love the people in the bubble. In Christian colleges, there tends to be a bubble that we stay in, but he encouraged us to go out and love on people that were outside of our everyday college experience.
How do people take that, though? Did people say, "Oh, I'm sorry, that's not a degree, hun"?
Yes. My first day of grad school, they asked me what I wanted to do, and the professors and everybody in my class was just kind of looked at me like I was a little different. But I just knew that God desired for me to love people well and love the unlovable. You know, my heart is to go after the unseen, the unwanted, and the unheard, because that's not what society goes after. But I believe that's what God goes after. And if that's our heart to do what God does, we should desire to go for those people too.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, what happened next was grad school.
I went for counseling, and I made it a semester and decided I did not like staying in a little white room asking people how they felt. But meanwhile, while I was in grad school, my grandma's health was going down. So I left, and I ended up taking care of her. She started getting the signs of dementia, and she would forget to eat, and she would forget to do just the everyday, just basic things, you know. So I would start visiting her every day and making sure that she would get things done. And our relationship was fantastic. Like, I would say she was my best friend. We would go shopping all the time, shopping and ice cream. And even right now, in what I do, ice cream is very important. So it makes me think of my grandma. So we would go to Goodwill because we shop too much, you could say. And we could afford to buy a lot more clothes that way. So every Saturday we would end up going to Goodwill's and buying new clothes.
So you were serving her. Did you also serve other people, other seniors at that time?
Yeah. One of my hearts is loving on the people that are very close to the end. I help them get to heaven. I escort them to heaven. I've had a few elderly people that I've got to spend the last few months of their lives doing what they desire to do. When their family said they can't do that anymore, why can't they do that? I had this older lady, Monelle, and we got to go to this ice cream shop and eat ice cream where her and her husband had their first date. And all we did was sit there and eat ice cream, and she reminisced all those memories and all those years together. I got to take another older lady to the mall, and it was the last time she ever got to go to the mall, but she enjoyed it so much. And she would tell me, oh, there used to be this store here and this store there, and just bringing life to them and letting them experience life like they used to, and just loving on them until they get to spend eternity with the Lord. And it was a really special time.
Wow. So did anything else special happen during that time when you were between grad school? Close to the end of grad school?
I helped out with my grandma, and I helped her, and it was really close to the end with her. And I told her that what I was going to do. And I don't even know why I said what I said, but I told her that I was going to go to India and I was going to become a missionary. And I don't even know why I said that, because that was not on my radar. when we had...
Is that something she wanted you to do?
No. I mean, she said, do what makes you happy. Okay. And that was just really special to me.
That was your vision. That was part of your vision then.
I just had no clue that was what God had. It just came out one of those days.
Okay.
I was actually afraid of missionaries and didn't even like saying the word, because we would have missions weeks at Grace in my undergrad, and I would get close to them and I would feel like my heart would explode, because maybe it would be like chicken pox and I might get it, and I don't think I was prepared to do that.
But then how did you end up there then? In India? How did we end up? Yes.
I partnered up with a college ministry called Chi Alpha, and they're at Purdue Fort Wayne, and I prayed for them while I was in college, and then I joined and helped do work with them and encourage college students to their best potential. And they advertised a trip to India. God has everything so planned out. I had a prayer partner after grad school, and we prayed for India every single Monday morning at 7 a.m. We prayed for every state of India, and now she teaches over there. Teaches English over there, and she's been over there for 4 years. And but I actually got to go to India before she did.
Did you have any idea that you would end up there? I know that was your desire, but was it a struggle to end up there?
Yes. I actually got denied the first time when I asked to be part of that team, because I had never gone on a trip before. I'd never been on an airplane before. I didn't know how any of that worked. And they were like, no, we want experienced people who've gone over there, because it was the first time that leader had gone to India, and it's a third world country. So women are, less than cows. It's definitely a men's society, and it can be dangerous. Like, if you're going to share the gospel, they can throw you in jail, or they can kill you.
So when you guys went, it wasn't, of course it was, but it wasn't identified to share the gospel. What were you guys there doing?
We were teaching English,
okay.
And God just set that up perfectly. There was 3 of us women that went. One of the women was a college missionary. The other woman was a worship leader, and I worked as a classroom assistant after grad school. And the 2 other women had never worked with kids before.
Wow.
And so I was the only one who had worked with kids. And so I got to create the curriculum, and I got to teach them English. That's what we put on our reason we were going there. We were teaching English. We may have used the Bible to teach English, but it was a really good time. And just, I was put in a role of leadership in that, and it was just amazing how I had no experience, but the Lord had prepared me up to that.
It's to serve. That's more to serve. So tell me, then when you came back, what was life like after you came back?
Life was hard. After you go to a third world country and come back to America, it's definitely eye-opening. You see what's truly important, and put aside what's not. And I couldn't go back to the way things used to be. There had to be more, and I was definitely searching out that more. I knew there were so many people that were lost that needed to know, have hope in a future, and that's one of the words that I actually hold on my wrist is hope, because school was so difficult. I clung on to the Jeremiah 29:11, for I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and give you hope for a future. And I couldn't process all of that. I just knew that there was hope for something more. And I just held on to that hope. And I've had this bracelet on since college, clinging on to that hope that he has for us.
Did you ever use that? What was your graduate degree?
Counseling and sociology.
Sociology. Did you ever use that while you were in India then?
We worked with a lot of children.
Okay.
So we were just I mean, education. I picked up on the culture and stuff a lot quicker because of the degree, but not really.
Okay. When did you begin to use your degree?
I haven't technically. I became a classroom assistant, and I worked at Northside Middle School.
Okay.
Northside High School. I'm so sorry.
Okay.
And it was great. I learned so much about just how much kids need encouragement. I call the high schoolers my babies, because those babies needed more love than anything. And I was always that safe person that they told the things to. I'm like, do you realize I'm the adult in the room, and I have to turn things in? And they trusted me with very difficult things. So I was counseling them, but not in an official realm.
Yes.
They would just come to me because I didn't have the responsibilities of being a teacher. I had the responsibilities of caring for them and making sure that their academics were there. But how can you get academics if you're emotionally not even in the room?
Right.
So I would meet with them and love on them, and we had a lot of hallway walks and talks before they could do their academics. We would de-escalate and just encourage them and give them wisdom, because a lot of students come from broken homes that don't have role models. So those were my babies.
So you were born to serve. And you were serving even as a teacher's assistant. Mm-hmm. You were serving as a child. You were serving in college. You were serving in India. You were serving in the high school. So I kind of see that thread. Yes. You were serving. What happened that you after you came back here from India?
After I came back from India, I actually went to the elementary school and became a one-on-one assistant with a child.
Okay.
And I followed her all the way to middle school. So I had 4 years with this little girl, and she definitely challenged me and taught me to pray. Mm-hmm. She was a 4th grader when I started, but emotionally like a 3-4-year-old, mm-hmm. and I taught her how to have manners, mm-hmm. and that was amazing just to see how that could change a world when you just positively pour into a child.
Mm-hmm. When did your eyes become open, though, that you wanted something more?
I think after India,
okay.
There's so many things that we can fill ourselves with here. Mm-hmm. But when we actually peel back what is truly important, there's 2 basic needs everybody has. And, everybody needs to be loved, and everybody needs to have purpose. And there was so much hurt in the world that I needed to help them somehow. And I did. I became very involved in my church, and we did a food ministry, and we got to pour into them and provide their physical needs of food, mm-hmm. but then there was more. There was still a missing piece, I think, that I was missing, and that's when Revive came to Fort Wayne, I believe, mm-hmm. and that's where I learned tools on how to take what I truly believed and then apply it in everyday life.
Okay, all right. Was that the Revive Indiana?
Yes.
Okay, all right. Tell me about that experience.
Revive came to Indiana in 2015,
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
and Revive usually comes for 1 week, and then they train people, and then they leave. Well, in Goshen, they had 50 days, and that was amazing, but I wasn't part of that. And then they went on to 7 different cities. I don't know if you know the Indiana state flag, but there's a torch in the middle. There's a flame that's in the middle of the flag, and there's 7 different rays. And the last ray was actually Fort Wayne, and that's where I got involved. I just learned that, there are simple ways to share what you believe.
Okay.
And I was completely terrified because I had never shared my faith. I thought, you have to be super, have it all together.
Yeah. Talk about what Revive is. You said Revive Indiana, but for people who don't know what is this Revive? Explain to the audience what is this Revive?
Revive, it's my best way to
what
explain
do you
it.
do?
We take teams of 4 people and we go out in the streets. And there's always a leader who knows what they're doing. And when it's your first time, you don't even have to say hello to a person if you want, because your job is to watch and learn. And within these 4 teams, you meet people just like we did. When you were at the library the one day, we met you and we prayed for you. We use a technique where we say we love people. And how do we love people? We love them by listening to their story, because people don't care until they know you care.
That's right.
So
it's one of my quotes. Absolutely.
Yeah. So we love them by listening, and then while we're listening, we're also having a conversation with God, and we call discernment. So listening to that person, but then also listening to God. Hey, when do you want us to react? Because so many times people listen to talk. Instead of listening to what that person is saying. So we love them by listening, and we discern, and then finally we respond. And we pass out these wristbands and Bibles. And I think when I started, I was completely terrified. Like, how do you know what to share? And we have these Bibles that are tabbed, and they're already highlighted. So if it's my first time, it's not as scary, because all I have to do is put my finger on the tab and open it up. And it's a very easy tool to share.
So you're going out, you're talking to people, not necessarily ministering to them, but actually sharing the Word of God then. Okay. And so in Indiana is when you really began to find that love.
Yes.
For Revive.
Yeah, I learned about it. They were actually here for 3 weeks.
3 weeks.
So I would go to services, and if I couldn't go, they actually live stream all the services online. So I would listen every night to what was going on, and just learning that, it's not just the pastor's job. It's not just leadership's job. It says, therefore go. And who's supposed to go? I think we're all supposed to go and share the gospel. So it's the first time that I really understood that it's my job to go. And I started out, I was very scared, but then they encouraged me and kept building me up and kept walking in that.
The cool thing about, because I was a part of the Revive also when they were here, is the diversity. And it wasn't, and there were children that were a part of the process. There were senior citizens that were a part of the process, and that was probably one of the things that interested me more than anything, that it was such a diverse group of people. Yeah. And so after Indiana, what was the next step for you?
They actually advertised on the radio.
Okay.
Come to Ohio and come and volunteer. They'll provide housing and they'll provide meals. All you have to do is pay for the transportation over there. And it was literally a week before school started, so I was free. So I decided I was going to go for the and just experience it, see what it's all about. I hadn't caught the complete vision of what Revive meant, but I wanted to know more. So I started going.
How long did that end up? You end up in Ohio.
Well, the first county that they had was Greenville. And they were there for 3 weeks, but I was only there for 6 days because I had to go back and work. But God had a bigger plan. I loved it. I fell in love. That love and purpose that I go back to. God gave me, He loves me. And you know what? It was the first time I saw the purpose He had for my life.
What do you mean, though? You had to go back and work?
I had to go back to the school system and work.
All right. So how did you participate in the Revive then? How did you volunteer?
Well, that first week I was there because school was out.
Okay.
And then I literally took every other Friday off and drove back and forth to Ohio. I just couldn't get enough. I fell in love every single time. There were more people. There were more people that needed to know about Jesus. There were more people that needed to have hope for the first time. there were more people that were in the church that just needed their strengths pulled out. And if they had that pulled out, they could change their world. We're not, Jerusalem, Judea, and the ends of the earth. So you have to start where you're at, where you're planted. You have power where you're at. You have a platform right here to share. And you have platforms at work. You have platforms when you're at the grocery. God might say, go to Walmart and share the gospel. So how do you do that? And I think that first week, I fell in love with this little girl. The Lord told me to bring my softball glove, and I carried it in my book bag for 3 days. And I was like, God, why do I have this thing in my book bag? And literally right after I asked God that, there was this little girl who had a softball t-shirt on. And I was like, hey, do you want to play catch? She's like, oh, sure. And she brought her ball glove the next day. But I had her, she trusted me on her team. And we went out. As a team leader, I asked her, hey, are you comfortable with praying out loud? Because we don't ever want to put a person in a situation that they're not comfortable in. And Mackenzie said, no, I'm not. I'm afraid of praying out loud. I'm not going to do it. And I told her, hey, it's okay, because you have teammates that are going to take care of you. And we took care of her. And we ended up going to a nursing home. And our team split up. Two went one way and two went the other way. And we were walking back to get our teams together. And I saw little Mackenzie praying for one of the people who lived there. So we got to share during testimony time during lunch. And we do 1-minute testimonies. And I talked about how Mackenzie was afraid, but she has a God that will give you power. And she was brave, and how she was bold enough to share, just pray. And it was just really cool to see how Mackenzie just changed. And then we go in different groups in the afternoon because we want to combine to encourage the entire church. We talk about the capital C church, the church. It doesn't matter what background you come from. It doesn't matter if you're Baptist, Lutheran, Pentecostal. It doesn't matter, because we serve the God. And so she went on a different team. She came back after that outing, and she ran to me, and she told me she led someone to Christ.
Oh, wow.
It's a little girl.
Right. It built up her confidence like you can't believe, I bet. When did you begin to want more, though?
Yes.
That was volunteering, right?
I was volunteering.
Now you are actually employed through Revive. Is that correct? How did that come about?
Well, God asked me to just apply, and I was not ready for that. And He's asked me to be faithful. I had a lot of fear, and I said no. What will people think? What will people will people believe in me? But God said, are you afraid of man, or are you afraid of me? And
that's powerful.
And I wanted to be faithful to God. He's like, I'm not asking you to do these big things. I'm asking you just to apply.
Wow.
I'm not asking you to do this big thing. I'm just asking you to go to an interview. I'm not asking you to go do this big thing. I'm just asking you to do a second interview. Okay, this next little trip to Texas might be a little bigger. Okay, now, and just being faithful in each step, He had my hand, and He encouraged me during that.
Very good. What did you have to overcome?
There were a lot of things that I had to overcome, and just what other people thought and what other people thought of me. And there's this quote that I have that I cling to. It says, I am a woman of God, redeemed by Jesus Christ, loved, pursued, and chosen, equipped with words of life, clothed with strength and dignity, commissioned here and now, gifted by the Spirit, and forgiven and unbound. Blessed is she who believes. And God just had to teach me that I was equipped.
Yes.
That He used 12 simple men. I'm no one special.
Right.
I have difficulties, but you know what? That's part of my testimony, and I can relate to people that other people can't.
Right.
When I was in this last time in Wisconsin, I got to pour into this 20-some-year-old who struggles with reading, and I told him about a God who transformed me. And now I'm doing great things for him because he's working through me.
It's amazing. What's next? What is your vision for you for the future? What do you want to accomplish with Time to Revive, or as a collaboration with Time to Revive?
Well, my next trip, I'm actually leaving Friday for Ohio again.
Okay.
My heart is to just equip people, to empower them for what they have, is finding their strengths and pulling them out. I think that's part of my degree, is seeing the people's strengths, because so many times we don't see them in ourselves.
Right.
They only come to light when we encourage others, you know? So if we can pour into others, we can multiply, and we can give hope for a world that's lost.
That's cool. What has been your most rewarding experience with Time to Revive?
I love seeing families completely
come together. That's cool.
I'm just seeing it never gets old when somebody says yes to Jesus.
What has been the most challenging?
I think sometimes the hours we have are difficult, but how can you say it's not worth it when you see people radically change?
Cool. Melinda, thank you so much.